Hi, hello, good afternoon.
Okay, so the next point in the program is a panel discussion on software dissemination. And we have some panelists, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 panelists, which is Jan Fiala, Michael Gabay, Victor Magron, Bernard, and Michael Stingler in the alphabetical order. And before I ask the first one to give a brief opinion on what could be the software dissemination of POEMA, I'd like just to go through these points. What is my view, or what are the questions we can ask? And I'd like to start with the part 1 here, part B1, which is the part from our application, where we say that a platform can be organized using existing software related to polynomial optimization for the access and the development of a database of benchmarks. So in fact, the only thing we are promising in the application is a database of benchmarks. And even then we say that it can be organized. But okay, we are developing software, most of us, and we do want to disseminate it. So the first question is, what do we want to demonstrate by this dissemination? That within the project, we produced something which is better than was before. So there was progress made in polynomial optimization. The question is, what is the targeted audience of this dissemination? I would say it's still mainly the academia, other researchers, either in mathematics, in global optimization, or in engineering, structural engineering, for instance. Or is it also the industry directly, let's say, in power grids? This question, I think, is actually mainly solved or targeted in the initial contracts already. The pre-existing knowledge license is IPR, so I don't think we should really discuss that. The question of, which was mentioned in the talk by Jan Fiala, of versioning, automatic testing, the database. So this should be answered by our database of benchmark, at least partially. I don't think we will be that far of going into automatic testing and something which is really done for the professional software. What will be the software platform? So will it only be Julia, MATLAB, so platform independent tools, or will it also be something which is platform dependent? And then, so let's say a program in C or in Fortran, and will it then be maintained on several platforms or released on several platforms? Of course, each software should be accompanied by documentation or even test examples, cookbooks, as mentioned by Erling in his talk. So are we willing to do that? And this is also related to the main questions of maintenance. What will happen with the released or disseminated software after the end of POEMA? Will it be further developed in some follow-up projects, follow-up POEMA projects, or some other projects of the participants of the consortium? Should we just upload the software which is being developed? And there are different pieces of let's say, unconnected software. Should it be just all uploaded on GitHub, the source version, or as Victor mentioned in the previous meeting, should we start and maintain a server for polynomial optimization? Then the question is, who would do it? Actually, where would be the platform? Who will maintain it? And the final question of mine is, should we form a dissemination team who would sort of try to solve these questions, or whatever questions are coming in the next year before the end of the project? So those are my questions, or I'd say those are general questions. Actually, these questions were formulated by Michael Stingler. And now I would like to ask the first panelist, which is Jan. I'm not sure if he is here, to say whatever he thinks from the point of view of independent company, software company, what could be a product of POEMA, software product, and how could it be of use for companies like NAG?
Okay, well, thanks to be first, my honor. Well, I would say the first thing is really build a data set, benchmarking set and testing set. Because if you imagine, well, basically, if you cannot measure something, it cannot be improved. So the same spirit as you have LP-netlib or miplib or I don't know, CBlib, the database of problems which are maintained, well chosen, you have everything what you need inside. So for example, if you have the results, so you have expected results, you have nice ways how to integrate it. That's certainly one first step, I would say, because that allows everyone else then to plug into this one and basically try to push the boundary what's being possible right now. Now, I have the feeling that, of course, for polynomial optimization is quite clear. This, I guess, would be the first of its kind, but it would be also nice to extend it to SDP. So, for example, I know because we have RFA as our virtual secondment that she is working on lowering SDP solver. So, can we, for example, release SDP problems of that particular form? Or, for example, could we generate SDB problems coming from POP relaxations, basically to also push a little bit the limits what SDP solvers are able to do. Now, so that would be certainly one aspect to this. A good question is where will it live and what should happen with that? I don't know. It would be really pity if, for example, it was on the POEMA website and the POEMA website died after a couple of years because, I don't know, the domain is not being paid and no one maintains it, and that's the end of the project, right? That would be really sad. So is there something like POEMA or Polynomial Optimization Hub where people would know, okay, this is the central thing, like, for example, NEOS or Hans Mittelmann, when you want to know benchmarks, you know, well, Google Hans Mittelmann, right? So is there one place like this where people could go? With respect to the software, well, this is of course tricky. I guess we are at the stage that it's mainly for academics, right? Or for very special problems in practice. Or do you feel that the technology is mature enough that basically you can give it to general practitioners similar way as you can do NLP and just say like, okay, this will solve only small problems, but just put it in and see what happens. And that somehow defines how much extra information you need to provide so that all the output is accessible for non-polynomial optimization specialists. But it would be certainly nice. Yeah, so I would say there should be something like one place, ideally, one web page, hub, someone decides to maintain it even after POEMA project itself is being finished, where there are links to all the other resources. Because if you just scatter all software across GitHub, like, will people actually find it? Will they know how the different approaches match or how they differ? Well, so to kick off the discussion.
Yeah, thank you. I would say before we go to discussion, I would go to the all panelists first and then we will start the free discussion. So thank you, Jan. Mikhail Gabay, can I ask you, Mikhail, to say what you think?
Come closer so you can hear me. So I have noted a few points, and I would also like to relate to some of the points you had mentioned. So first thing, and to discuss actually what you just presented, Mika, an important question, I think, is the scope of this database. Actually, is it a POEMA database? I mean, do we do that just to advertise, what was done in the project, or is it something that we want to keep maintained so that typically 10 years from now people can find it as the updated reference on polynomial optimization? I think that's the first answer, the first question that we need to answer, and the answer very much depends on who would be ready to maintain it after POEMA projects, I believe. So that being said, I'll give, let's say, my opinion about that. I think that would be a great thing if we can have something like that relate to POEMA, but also more generally to polynomial optimization. So keeping in mind POEMA, so assuming that our goal is kind of to tick the box and display to the European Commission that we've been doing a great job with POEMA. I think that anyhow, actually on POEMA website, we should reference all of the software and all of the things that have been done by RESR and our researchers across the project. Also, we shall make sure that this is easily accessible and, let's say, browsable, as GitHub has been mentioned already, and I think that's quite a reliable place to find stuff, and there are mechanics there, especially organizations that can be used to gather repositories, and especially it could make sense if everything that's done in POEMA is gathered in the same organization, which would be a POEMA organization in GitHub. So that would make it fairly easy to find out the code that was done in the project, and also to disclose it outside of POEMA. So let's say that's a strictly organization part, but I think I mean everything that's open source on the project should be referenced, at least referenced in a common repository. Could be forked or could be hosted in this repository. Those really are details, and I think that's basically the basics. Then there's also the question of the database. So in my opinion, it's really very good, this work that's been done so far and that's continued on the database. But data set does not exist basically unless you run some benchmark on it. So I think it's fairly important that we have some level of benchmark using this data set before the end of the project, and that they are disclosed somewhere. Once again, we come on the maintenance question: what happens after this? After the POEMA project is done, it would be, at least the benchmark should be, the data set should be published. And it would be really great if the benchmark were reproducible in an automated way, so that anyone can run basically his benchmark, or if someone like Hans Mittelman, who was mentioned, can dedicate some hardware to running this benchmark on a regular basis every 6 months or 12 months. That would be really great to make it existing, and also to incentivize people to provide some new problems and to connect to the benchmark. The last thing maybe to mention again, it's related to, let's say, what happens after POEMA. What we don't see as well is the potential of the community. to maintain what's been doing in POEMA after the project. So on my end, I think I would really try to push you towards publishing stuff on GitHubs, and for instance, trying to maintain a list of polynomial optimization software on GitHub. That makes it that people can submit pull requests with new software, and maybe you've seen that already, but there are lots of README projects across GitHub that are quite useful, and so that's one way the project could live even a few years from now. So I think that addresses most of the point that was mentioned in your list, Michael. But yeah, just to summarize, what really matters and what should be discussed, in my opinion, is the scope. Is it just to advertise what was done in POEMA, or do we want to make something that's more global and more useful to people? And the maintenance, what happens after POEMA, basically, and keeping in mind that we don't know who outside of this circle would be ready to contribute in a few years from now. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Just to be sure about one point, when you say benchmarking, you mean benchmarking of polynomial optimization software on the problems from the database.
Exactly, that's what I mean.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Victor.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, very well.
Okay, good. So I think I completely agree with the previous panel members. So for me, the hard question is more how to do the maintenance on a mid or long term goal. So should we try in one of our organizations to have a research engineer to work on that? Should we try to recruit a permanent person for this, or ask one of the available permanent people to work partly on that? Or should we try to hire someone with a temporary contract to do it? Because I think it takes a significant amount of time to have something clean with the elaboration of a documentation, especially with Julia, as it evolves quite quickly, to make sure that that the versions remain stable. So I think this is important question. So who will do the maintenance on the long term? I think all of us can work a little bit on it, but at some point we might not have the time to do it. I also think that everything should be concentrated. And so going from the initial website, one could access all the different websites for each software. So this is for each user possibility to download and execute the code. But I also think that if we really want to disseminate the different tools, we should have a kind of server that would basically run the different programs. So there would be basically a MATLAB installation and a Julia installation on it, so that someone who is not expert in programming or also not expert in polynomial optimization would be able to at least try the different packages on his favorite problems. So I think regarding the target, so we are in a moment where industry would start to use this technique. So for instance, RTE is more and more interested in running the sparse polynomial optimization formulations. So if we really want industry to use these techniques, of course we should start this process soon. Regarding the license, I think the Cecil license is one option. There are others. So it's in particular used by CNRS and INRIA. And then, yes. yes, on the dissemination team, well, yeah, I think it really depends on what we do. Like if we have this general platform, then it will be much easier to do the dissemination and to communicate. And yeah, that's it.
Okay, thank you, Victor. Now I would ask Michael Stengel, because I think Bernard should be the last one just to summarize as a boss of this project. So Michael, please.
Yes, hello everybody. Yeah, I think a lot of things have been already said. So I definitely think that it would be very good to demonstrate software-wise something people can try in practice. And I agree we should mainly go for academic users, but of course not close the door for interested people from industry. I believe that it is not so useful if we put just everything on GitLab, for instance, because I'm afraid it would just be too complicated and it would be hardly used. So just recall what Jan Fiala said about SDP and like customers, for instance. So I think people always need a lot of support, and if there's sort of a high threshold, then no one would use it. So what I think that in any case, if we offer something like Solvay, they should be connected to the data. So it's not like having a folder with solvers and having a folder with database and that's it. There should be somehow a pipeline from the data to the solvers. And then we have to think about how we can do that, because this includes data conversion. You know, when we made the database, Michael has invested, and I think also Victor and others have already invested some time in transferring data from the one format into the other one, and so on and so forth, to connect the different tools. So I think there are essentially two alternatives. Either we provide all open source stuff plus database and so on, as it was suggested already, but then it needs very good documentation, maybe cookbook style, as has been suggested by Erling already. But my earlier experience with some of our software shows that if you do that, you still need someone who is able to support people on a, or I shouldn't say customers, interested people from academia and maybe industry on a more or less permanent level, because there will be always new versions of operating systems. Some will new Julia version, MATLAB version, whatever. And even if you have a very good documentations, I think that the problems we are solving in polynomial optimization, they are often very hard. So you never know if the reason for potential failure is improper usage or if the problem is really too hard. So whenever someone would try on his or her instances, I think immediately questions are coming up. So in that sense, I pretty much like actually that idea of having a server using which at least all this administrative business would be already done. So for people who are not so experienced, so there would be no question of installation. All the data handling would be sort of managed in the background. But the big question is, of course, who would do that? So Victor made some suggestions. Hire someone. I have no idea who would pay that, for instance, but maybe we can talk about it. Yeah, that's more or less my opinion. So I find this server idea very exciting. Of course, we should also publish open source software, but I think if you can do something like this server solution, it would be a much nicer and powerful solution.
Okay, thank you, Michael. And finally, Bernard, please.
Yes, so maybe first about software. So I think one goal of this description of software, it would be first to collect information about existing software which addresses non-linear optimization problems or some polynomial optimization problems. So just listing what are the tools available, developed in POEMA and also outside, because this is not, I think people are not very aware of this of these tools which can be used. So it could be just as a list and links to the site of the software, so that people can then use them easily. But it would be just to, well, first to give information about the existing developments. And also, I'm not sure that putting all software in the same on the same platform like GitHub would be acceptable or accepted by people who develop these tools, because they have their own tools or their own way to develop code, and maybe they don't want to put their code on this GitHub project, and they develop their own system locally, and so putting all together will not be a good thing, I think, and also it will require to have people taking care of this global software. So it's I think that it would be better if people involved in the development of this special software take care of their own infrastructure for the development. But it doesn't mean that maybe inside POEMA we cannot help one site to have a good environment, maybe, or to have good practice to organize this software development. So the audience is, I think, yes, mainly I don't know. Yes, the academic, for first maybe the academic, the research done on polynomial optimization, and industry to attract interest on the problems and on the tools, and by showing examples, by documentation which illustrate the behavior of the software. Yes, this is clearly also a target audience. About IPR licensing and so on. So as each tool has its own can have its own license, and this is managed by the developers of the software. So no incitation, no rules here, but maybe some recommendation to have at least a license attached to the software. Should it be open or not? Yes. Also about this point, so the say distributed development of this software. Also, another reason is that they are of different kinds. So they are developed with maybe Julia, MATLAB, or C, or C++. So each corresponds to a different practice and different way to develop the code. And now yes, documentation. I will come back to the database after documentation and versioning and so on. Yes, this is in the good practice for the development of software. So one should have this versioning tools like Git or SVN. I think it's really a very good and helpful tool to manage software, and moreover, it allows to have co-development of software, so several people working on the software development, which implies this versioning, and so there are also good practice to do versioning, and can be documented if needed. And another good practice is the testing. So developing automatic tests is important, but it's not done. We don't do it naturally. So when we write code, we often don't spend some time to develop tests. So I think this could be, as Jan was mentioning in his talk, this is an important aspect of the validation of the software. So if one can organize automatic testing for the code which are developed, it would be very good. But also, it's developed on this depends on development of each software. And so, related to software, we have a database. The database can be used, and yes, should be used for testing. So, checking that the developments, the improvement are really improvement, or are not breaking things, and so on. So automatic testing and using this database is important. It should be examples which would contain data which are say small or medium, and some other which are difficult, but medium difficulty data would be used for testing and checking, and difficult data could be used for benchmarking, comparison of software. So this is also important because when in our research, in our work, we validate our algorithms by showing that on some database it's working well. So we benchmark the time, the numerical quality, and so on. But it's a problem if this, for me, I think it's a problem if this cannot be reproduced. So if we have no way to check the validity of this test, maybe to redo it again, it's a problem. So having data published and the algorithm and the software available to this test is important. Okay, so that's maybe one of the goals of this database, to collect examples that can be used for the algorithm we develop, can be used for testing, checking, benchmarking. It's so we made some step in this direction by developing on GitHub a group which is organization which is the polynomial moment optimization that you can find. So let me, maybe I can share my screen. To show that. So, so this is the current group which exists on GitHub here, which contains 3 projects so far. So the one about data is collecting the data we have on. So these are polynomial optimization problems, moment optimization problems, and SDP problems. And there are some packages, some other projects which are related to tools to deal with this data set. One in Julia, which is PMO.gl, and one in MATLAB for operating from MATLAB, getting data from or putting data in the database from MATLAB or Julia. So yes, that's the situation currently. So it's gathering some packages. Of course, this can be open. So if there are more projects which are added, more projects can be added here with no problem. We have here some people involved in the development of which have access to the development of these projects. And in fact, everyone who wants to contribute, add data, is a developer of the project, or can become a developer of the project. And it's you can add data here. So this is the current situation for the data we have. It's true that there's not so much activities on this now, but we should everyone should be encouraged to contribute to the database. And in particular for the ESR, this could be an action of dissemination. So we discussed it yesterday with some of you, but if you contribute to the database by adding some examples, you can report it as an action of dissemination. So we need to have some report on that by the end of this year. But yes, think seriously of contributing for everyone, every ESR in particular. Think of contributing to this database by adding some data here. So they are stored. Well, we see here the current index of the data. You see they are not so. These are just the index of the data which exists. They are not so much, but and they should be expanded. So adding examples that you use in your articles or in testing some algorithms, some implementation. Yes, these examples could be added. If they are polynomial or moment problems, they can be added to the database. So it's really problems. So these are not soft implementation. They are of algorithms. They are just data which are stored in some format to be reused for testing, checking, benchmark. So the message here again is to encourage and push everyone to contribute to this database. And I think the next step could be that it's used in automatic tests to run to estimate the to estimate the performance of the software we develop. But it's so this could be also automatized and have automatic tests for the different packages which use this database. Okay. And I think that's yes. So there is a documentation about these tools. For instance, there is how to use the demo database. There is a tutorial here, which is in fact using notebooks. So this is in Julia, and we have a notebook here explaining how to construct polynomial model and then store it in the database. So a good practice is also to documentate, to do documentation of the tools, and one way to do that is to use well, to have tutorials, for instance, for the use of the software, and this tutorial could be as notebooks as here, and then can be used to generate some documentation. That's I think what about the points you mentioned, Michael. I'll stop here.
Yeah, thank you. I just would like to mention that Bernard just answered the question of Jan, that it's not only polynomial data, it's also SDP data, SDP coming from polynomial relaxation. So you can find SDP data there already now. So I think the main questions coming from this discussion so far is who will do any maintenance, any further work, on which platform. Well, at the moment, the database is, in my view, the only connecting piece of software. Otherwise, each software is done through something in Julia, in C, in MATLAB. So the database sort of connects us. So I would say filling the database is really important for the project outcome, for the dissemination report, and also the benchmarking. So it's up to the authors of the code, of the polynomial optimization codes, to do the benchmarking. Now we have some of data already in the database, so we should start filling some tables of results for particular pieces of software, for sparse optimization, for moment tools, for I don't know what else in the moment.
But can I say something about that? So I think we should all agree on what to display when doing the benchmarking. So the value of the optimal value, the running time. What should be the things to display? And it will be problem dependent as well. Won't be the same for SDP, polynomial optimization, static problems, dynamical problems. But that's, I think we can agree on something soon.
Yeah, that was partly the reason of my last point. Should we form a narrower group of software developers? And who discuss these things. I don't know.
We could somehow imitate what we can find on Hans Mittelman page, for instance.
Just the problem is that if everyone runs its own benchmark or the same benchmark on their own machine, then the numbers are not quite comparable, right?
Yes.
Like for me, let's say if I look at it from perspective of practitioner, I would like to know, like, okay, I'm able to solve this problem in a second or a millisecond or in an hour, and what type of machine do I need to have to access it, right? Like at least a ballpark figure should be mentioned somewhere just to set the expectations, what you can actually achieve. Yeah, just one question which came to my mind while people were talking. Do you know if there is anything like, I'm not sure if you know Google collaboration. I think they offer you free resources to run Jupyter notebooks. I'm not sure if it's just Python or if you can run Julia as well. But in principle, if there was a free service like this, that you can basically submit your Jupyter notebook with your data, and be it in Julia, or I think MATLAB nowadays is online as well, isn't it? But probably it's not free. So it would be a nice way that how to connect actually the solver data and the benchmarking result. That basically you could just click and it would submit this particular data with your solver to a machine in Google, and then you would get the data back, maybe. But probably it's not that easy. Just thinking a lot.
So
Yes,
what
I think sorry, please go ahead.
Jan, what was the name? Google what?
Google Colab.
Google Colab, like shortcut of collaboration.
I've not seen. I've seen it for Python. I've not seen it for Julia, but maybe it exists.
Yeah, well, it's not officially supported, but we can download Julia, compile it on that machine. Yeah, and run it. The last time I tried it, it worked. But,
Okay. Yeah. This is a yes, a good. In fact, a very good option to have people testing the software, because you don't need to install anything to care about the installation. It's inscribed it's inside the notebook, and you can just test it for different input. So it offers the possibilities from the people outside to run the code, test it, and get some idea of the performance. But it depends also on the machine which are provided by Google, because these are not necessarily very powerful machines, computers.
Yeah, I guess this is more as a the resources, the free resources also won't be unlimited. So I don't think that you could submit big problems and actually use it for benchmarking as, for example, NEOS server. But it would open your code and the data more to the community, that actually people can play with it, right? As many obstacles you remove and easier you make it for people to run, more people might actually try it.
Yeah. I agree, yes. About the comment you... yes, okay. Victor, about the comment, should we agree on what we report on this benchmark? I'm not, well, I don't fully agree with this option, because the tools are aimed at some specific target, or doing specific tasks, and then the evaluation will depend on on this task. And we don't want to have the same evaluation for all the tools. Maybe one develop a software to show that it's able to manage large data, but the quality, the numerical quality is not so good. So
sure, but in any case, we should decide what we display, right? Depending on the problem we solve with a specific solver.
Yes.
But for instance, I mean, if you take globtipoli, YARMIP, sum of squares in Julia, and moment apt or moment tools, then we can compare, right?
Yes. This could be comparison of the numerical, the optimum, the value of the optimum, or the time, and so on.
Same for the SDP solvers. I mean, we have, if I understand correctly, we have competitors of MOSEC for certain problems.
Mm-hmm.
So we could compare them also for the different SDP solvers.
Okay, then it's a question of, again, of the interfaces, because now the polynomial problems are in JSON format. And if I wanted to test, let's say, sparse pop, which is written in MATLAB, I would need to write an interface to JSON, and the same for YARMIP and so on.
Yeah.
But I think it would be already great if one kind of benchmark of our, say, own software, reporting on the performance of some of the data in the database. Saying for these problems, this performance. So this and show the and maybe publish this performance on the, so either keep it for internal validation. We don't need to publish it, or put it or publish it on the website of the tool. Show the good performance. So for instance, well, just to illustrate, but the selling argument for Julia was to show that it behaves very well on many problems in computer science. So, and they advertise it on their web page. So this producing such benchmark could be important. But yes, it needs to be automatized, of course. We need to have techniques, tools to connect to the database, to get collect the data and run the test. Which means some effort, additional effort for the development of the tool, but well, we can also exploit the fact that we are working in a network and get some help from other sites.
I was just looking at one of the JSON files. It doesn't seem that you report expected results.
Exactly. I just wanted to say that we actually don't know what are the solutions of these problems.
So in that case, it still should be next to it. There should be similar as you have MIPLIV. You should have like, we know what's the global solution for there, or this is the best achievable solution which we found so far, so that people still have something to compare their solution if they actually try it.
Which means we should take one software and run the initial testing, initial benchmark. That.
So can I just come back to the point where we were mentioning the potential recruitment of someone working on that? So couldn't we ask this question to our EU contacts? Maybe they had a similar situation in the past and they actually have partial answers. Like you have a Marie Curie or ITN project, and at the end you want to do the software dissemination. What kind of tools would they provide for this? I don't know who would be the best contact point from EU. Maybe Bernard, you know that.
So I don't think at the EU level they provide some help on that. In fact, in the proposal, we have this dissemination and communication activities where we, to have we propose to do some actions there. And so I think it's on our side to organize this dissemination as in the best way we can. And somehow the evaluation of the project will also take into account these actions that we do. But I'm not sure we can ask help on the EU side for that.
Okay, I was thinking more about after the project is finished, after the global evaluation. If you want to keep it alive, let's say, dynamic.
Sure, there's anything inside of that aspect. My experience on other projects, typically what happened, there was a web page and then it died after the project. And there was nothing done on EU side to incentivize us to do more the lifespan of the project.
Can you speak?
I come closer as well.
Yeah.
So, well, I was basically saying that by experience, EU doesn't track very well what happens after the project and is not very concerned about that. So it's more about us actually. So, yeah, don't expect anything from their end or whether it is guidance or funds or anything. But by the way, that could be an argument in a follow-up project that we need to make things live and that some things with respect to dissemination was success and we need more funds and things like that. But that's another topic. And with respect to the approach, it seems to me with the discussion that many of us would be interested in having something lively, but the difficulty, of course, is the maintenance aspect. I don't think we'll settle that today. How about we try to find out an approach that makes it that we tick the box for POEMA project and that we make good advertisement on our work and that is possibly maintainable actually in the future. So especially by what I'm thinking about is if things that we're doing are publicly hosted and that we have reproducible procedures to do the experiments, for instance, as long as someone is willing to take on from that, we can hope for this to be maintained after the project without having to commit to that yet. So somehow if we make, for instance, a repository, it's on GitHub, fine. If it's elsewhere, I don't really mind. My idea with GitHub is that it's quite central actually, but never mind which one actually. Someone else could take on after the project because it just makes sense. And if for instance, it's a curated list of software, it's not such a hard work to maintain. What's a hard work is indeed is the benchmark. But well, Hans Mittelmann was mentioned. Hans Mittelmann is just one man actually, and he's committed to having one machine for 15 years actually to run this. So just one person that is willing to do that is enough. Maybe we don't know who this is gonna be, but this person is gonna rise in near future, let's say. So
Hans was paid for that from the university and from the grant agency.
Yeah, but still there's a lot of unpaid effort.
Well, I mean, if you look at Yarmip is crazy work, and I think I'm not sure one of us could do the similar amount of work in top of the research he has to do and teaching duties and other things.
But
the Lobberg is full time on Yarmip basically. He's paid to maintain it.
But that's not what I'm mentioning. Typically, maintaining a list of software is just a README file. So that's not huge work to add something when there's that could be a wiki page as well, by the way. It doesn't have to be on Git. But
So yeah.
I think that's
one option we would have to would be to have such a page on the GitHub project polynomial moment optimization, which we can update, maintain. So everyone who have access to the project, the organization can maintain, can update it. This is as a list and links should be easy to do. Yes, but as you said, the organizing the test and benchmark from the database requires more work.
okay. But let's say maybe in the project we can first run with just a few software. ESR could work on that, and make it, as you say, Bernard, reproducible. That the procedure is very clear, and that if someone wants to do the same experiments in the future, he just has to run some scripts so that someone can take on, let's say.
Yeah, I also believe we should start with something. I don't think different machines is such a problem. If well, if we just run it on standard laptop or PC, then maybe 3 times the difference in times. But what we want to see is 10 times or 100 times faster. Let's say the sparse approach to say globally. So I think more important is really the quality of the solution, to see that indeed we reached the global minimum, or we found the global minimum, the points. Oh, no, not we, I'm not doing it, you are doing this. And sorry, one thing, it's a little bit dangerous to look at Hans Mittelmann's pages, let's say for nonlinear programming or for even for semi-definite programming, unless you look at in the log files as well, because sometimes it just reports times, but the quality of the solution for different software may be completely different.
So
I wanted to mention something else I forgot also earlier. Bernard, you mentioned maybe GitHub is not the best thing, and I agree with you that we shouldn't force anything, whether it's how things are hosted or the license. It's really the business of the people doing it. But I just wanted to mention that it's open source is open source, so it's possible to fork stuff and to have some like regular pool of the repository, so we can have some mirrors on the organization. So if something makes sense, we can like fork it just so it appears on the page, or clone the repository on GitHub and pull regularly from the remote, so that it's displayed there, even if it's just a mirror actually that's also displayed there. And if they prefer to open Bitbucket or whatever, if that's open source, we can have it displayed here. Shouldn't GitHub, because it could be GitLab or anything else.
So we have a common place.
Yes.
A common place which will exist after the project, like hopefully GitHub.
So here's a crazy idea, which Jan and Michael will not like. Isn't it easier for software companies to maintain such things than to universities?
Nope.
He said it.
No, I mean, it's not that Neg wouldn't like to help, but taking this and like attaching your name to it also means that you need to justify certain level. So first of all, you need to guarantee certain level of quality. So you like, no one would like to put name of the company on a page which you don't intend to maintain. And if you say we want to maintain it, then actually it means that you need to create a budget for it. And yeah, that will be always tricky. My question is, so did I hear kind of that the decision is that there will be, like, let's say what I called polynomial optimization hub, some kind of page with all the information where you see like these are the benchmarks, these are the data, these are the results for each of the software, that it should be on GitHub? Was it the decision, or was it still like discussion or suggestion?
Well, currently it's on a GitHub page, right? But
No, I mean at the moment you have data, MATLAB suite, PMO.jl, right? I'm talking about something where, for example, the ESRs will surely report their results in their PhDs. So they will be comparing the new methods to the old ones, I assume. So they will have some results of the benchmarks. So where these results will be stored? Will it be just the thesis and that's it? Or can we pool them together that you have actually a page which will say, look, this is the new approach for polynomial optimization and it works great on these type of problems. So where this page will look? If I am new to polynomial optimization, where should I look? Where should I start?
Well, we have the POEMA website, we have the poema.com this server.
So will it live after?
That, yeah.
Will it live after POEMA finishes itself?
Question to Bernard.
It could, yes, it could leave after. But as you said, it's a matter of keeping the name access, and this is paying some small amount of for keeping it active. Yes. So it could be, and this is paid by INRIA. So this could be after the project. If we decide to keep it, it will be possible.
And it could either be accessible for writing by other people, or someone in area would have to.
Yes, the access would be possible also for other people. So the resource, the local resource can be kept alive. Server, the Joomla server can be kept alive. Modulo the technical problems like evolution of maintenance, but okay. And the name can also be kept. Name POEMA network.eu can be still valid if we pay use some amount for every year. So,
because at the moment there is a table dissemination and publication, so probably would be better to any benchmark results there.
yeah. The point is that we cannot guarantee that it will be there forever. And Jan, if I follow your suggestion, you suggest to put somehow the results or publication, the output of POEMA on such a server like GitHub or.
Well, again, I'm just looking at it from a perspective how a person who never heard of polynomial optimization comes across this whole topic, right? So what I would expect is that there would be a page which will serve as a gentle introduction to, not like mathematical introduction, but basically it will say in half a page, polynomial optimization gives you global solution, either the solution itself or just the value. These are the approaches like glob poly, and I don't know, within this network we developed approach XYZ. We also collected the results and collected the data. The data sit here on GitHub, the software sits over there, and basically this page will stay there forever. So for example, if you don't believe that POEMA-network will be paid for, then what has been suggested, I think it was Michael, that basically you create a repository with a HTML web page which serves for this project, then you know that GitHub probably will live forever and no one needs to pay for it. So then next to data and MATLAB suite and so on, you will create another one which will be, I don't know how to call it, polynomial optimization information or hub, whatever. And you put all the information there, and then it's public and people can access it forever. And people can suggest edits to that, right?
Yes.
So for example, if it would be nice to decide something. So for example, first of all, should there be such a page? And I would strongly argue that yes, because otherwise how people would know about the results of the project. Then the question is, if there should be the page, where should it live? If we cannot guarantee the domain to be live forever, which probably we cannot, then put it somewhere where we know that it's for free and that's it forever, that the data is not lost. And put there the links as a basically crossroad to all the different solutions which have been developed within the network, being other repositories on GitHub or elsewhere. Just suggestion, right?
I believe it's a very good suggestion, and maybe the simplest way to implement it is to keep this GitHub place, GitHub organization, and then put this kind of README files there with the correct information that we can update. So this would be, yeah, I would agree for that solution. Maybe there are other propositions for implementing this.
Just mentioned GitHub pages in the chat, but the README is a start of the house. Just Bernard. Just if you want to get rid of the server, that could be. But I agree with what you just said.
The next actionable item would be extend the data in the repository with best achieved results. Although it could be on that page, but it would be nice to have it next to the actual data set.
May I suggest that we briefly come back to the suggestion of Michael installing a dissemination team throughout the last year of the project, keeping an eye on all this and maybe checking also the plausibility of some of the suggestions we have heard today? Any thoughts about this?
Yes, in principle, it's a good idea. We have to make it effective. That is, but hopefully have some output related to what we discussed. So, but yes, this is something we have to do. Yes.
Yeah, we are discussing, but in half a year we can discuss again the same tool.
Yeah. That's the problem. We need to move forward. But if there is a dissemination committee, maybe this will help.
With what we said today, can't we make a kind of an action list, the different items, probably to be completed with by you, Bernard, with the items we've not discussed in the database, because like there are things that you know and we don't yet about the database, and try then to circulate them and make sure that we write names on every item, and with a rule that each ESR contribute one way or another to one of the tasks, or something like that. Really, I think the README we discussed, an ESR gets sweep, that's interesting, and that's not very difficult to set up. I'm pretty sure someone will be up for the task. The same thing for the database, it's super important, and only few ESR have contributed so far. So we can make sure that everyone has contributed, I don't know, at least 10 instances or something. rule, but make sure we have something coming from everywhere.
Yeah, we could put some more constraints. Every ESR should contribute 10 or more.
I don't know, just ideas, but we need to make those things lively, as you said.
So far, the incitation was to report the dissemination. But yeah, this will be maybe more effective.
So now we are all hiding before someone is named to this list, right?
Michael, would you agree? Would you agree, as you were suggesting, to have a dissemination committee? Would you agree to list this point of actions? We can.
Whom you are asking?
Sorry,
Whom you are asking?
I'm asking Michael or you, if you. If you would agree to do this say list of actions to do.
Well, I guess we can do it together with Michael. I was making some notes from this. I think Michael as well. So
Yeah.
he can just summarize some important points, and yeah, list of actions is
Yeah. And then we still can decide if we need to install a team for monitoring, an additional team, say, for monitoring this or not, I think.
or maybe just the committee or the supervisors, or is it called?
Yeah. Okay.
Thanks.
All right, so that's the first action. We will create such a list and notes from this meeting.
Mm-hmm.
We are discussing 6 people here. We actually never asked if anyone else from the audience has any comment or idea.
We'd like to try to avoid getting more work to do in the future. Just saying that.
Sorry?
I would like to avoid, that we said we have to get ESR to contribute some, which I'm already now, I guess, but I guess I don't really have a say on it. But I would like to have a legacy.
Okay.
I think I could not hear.
Someone
Who is it? I don't even know who is it. Anders?
yeah.
Okay.
You have to come here.
Actually, it was a poor consequence. I was just trying to haggle to do less work, but I guess ESR will simply have to contribute to this database and then leave a legacy.
The idea.
Yeah, well, we don't. So far, we don't want to put too much constraint. Many constraints.
So it's fine, I guess we can manage.
Yeah, to encourage action, contribution. Okay.
Let's have an action plan.
Yes.
There's still a few to lose, but at least we have a direction.
So
4 o'clock or 5 o'clock, sorry, in France. So formally, the meeting is finished. Do we have anything else to discuss, or do we want to discuss further? I think we are either exhausted or we just don't know how to.
no other comment from the. Yes.
Maybe one comment. I don't know if maybe we should put more effort on making the database readable, because it has only, I don't know, 40 entries right now, kind of. And it's really hard to guess what is where. I don't know, there is no tag for every item, I don't know. Adding some other slots like this is an SDP, or I don't know, make an index it to the database somehow, maybe. Because I don't know, when I'm looking for something in the database right now, I scroll in the GitHub JSON folder and look for the title. It's not the way, it's not really usable. There is this search of option in Julia, but it is not really.
So the yes, this is a good suggestion to improve the tool. So in the database, well, the data have this information, the SDP or polynomial, but the tools to search are very basic.
Yeah.
And well, in Julia, they are done in a very basic way, and I think in MATLAB it's also the case. So,
it would be nice to have a way to search among them, among the database that is not inside Julia and not inside MATLAB. I don't know, in the GitLab, that would be a subdivision in folders to have more, I don't know, a page where it is written, okay, here the SDP, these are the main ones, these are the variations. I don't know.
yes.
Well,
Yeah.
it's old-fashioned way, but at the moment there are not so many problems. We can simply have a text file there saying that this problem is an SDP in this format. If there is an optimal value known, here is the optimal value. Just for a quick look, first look. I can do it for my problems, which I submit.
And I think that these things should be decided before all the services start uploading the new things, so that they can be uploaded in a good way, started from the beginning, so that.
But I think Bernard had already made some proposal in the JSON to store some information like documentation and things like that. And, maybe it's already available actually in the JSON. I wonder typically if we can know if an instance is a pure SDP just by looking at the JSON, or if we have to pass it. So that's also information we have. So possibly we can, like I sent you a few examples, but possibly we can build such a table automatically from the JSON.
Yeah, it's possible to construct these tables as an index. So yeah, I'm not sure this should be considered before encouraging because as said, the data, the information in the data exists. So this information that you described, it exists.
That not only the information exists, the data. And I can say
Right.
for what I uploaded. I mean,
so you, yeah, maybe you don't have the solution, but you have a number of variables,
Yeah.
the degree. So this information is in the data, but the tools to get this information easily are not available. So, and these are search tools that should be put on the data, which could be done in independently of Junior.
Yeah.
And but it needs to develop some technical technical tools. But I think it's important to have the data and then have tools which can operate. But yes, this is a good suggestion to improve, in fact.
Okay, so I think we can all agree that the database and benchmarking is priority number one. So I'm still formally the chair of this session, but I finished this session. So if you are waiting for me to go home, don't do it, please.
Okay.
Now we are just sitting here around the table.
So it's finished.
So,
Thank you.
Thanks a lot. See you soon.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.